The last part of a file setup for a simple company is managing your vendors. A vendor is a company or person that sells you a product or service that your company needs. If our company sells products, we have to buy them from someone. The ones we buy them from are vendors. We also need vendors to perform services for us in order for us to operate our business. Here is Hattie's list of vendors. QuickBooks only requires that we put the name on the list, and we could always go back to the list of vendors and add the address. With each vendor, there should be a corresponding product or service that the vendor gives. For example, if Hattie pays Rex Repair, it's because we had some repair expense. Repair expense is already an account in the chart of accounts. If we pay Verizon, usually it's for telephone. If we pay UPS, it's usually for delivery. And if you live in New York, when you pay Con Edison, you pay for electricity. So in addition to buying products or merchandise from our vendors, we also have to buy services in order to operate. If we did not pay Con Edison, we would not be able to operate our business because we would have no electricity. The Vendor Center is the window that we open in QuickBooks to manage the vendors. This window allows us to add, edit, delete, or even make a vendor inactive, and it's very, very easy to manage. From the main menu, click Vendor, Vendor Center. The Vendor Center window is the window we use to add, edit, delete, and generally manage our vendors. How do we put a new vendor on the list of vendors? In the top left of the Vendor Center, you can click New Vendor, and you have a choice of adding multiple vendors at once or adding vendors one at a time. In a future video, we will explore adding multiple vendors at once. In this basic introductory video, we will just click New Vendor. Now, QuickBooks only requires the name. Of course, you are encouraged in a real situation to put all the additional information about the vendor into these fields so you can manage your relationship with the vendor. Notice additional info is only one of 4 tabs, and when you click on a different tab, you get a different category of information for that new vendor. In our class, we will only put the vendor name. Then when we click OK, it will be added to the list. What are the vendor names? Well, the first one was Rex Repair, so let's click in the field and type Rex Repair. Then when we click OK, we notice Rex Repair has been added to the list of vendors. Let's do that with the next vendor on the list, Verizon. Click here. Verizon. Click OK. Okay, new vendor. The next one was UPS, and the last one was Con Edison. UPS. We click OK. New vendor, Con Edison. Now we click OK. So here are the vendors on our vendor list. So once a vendor is on the list, how do we change their information? Well, that's very simple. All you have to do is double-click on any of the vendor names in the left panel, and the Edit Vendor window will open up. Once the Edit Vendor window is open, you can add, edit, or remove any of the additional information in any of the fields in any of the separate tabs. In future, more advanced videos, we will learn what these things are and how they function when we finally get to the topic that relates to these tabs. Right now, all we need to do is put the vendor name. The vendor name is the name in our records, in our QuickBooks file. Whatever you put in the company name field is what will print on checks, reports, and other documents when you run the reports or print the documents. So again, this is for our internal purposes, and this is what shows on documents and reports when we print them or we use them. You can also make a vendor inactive the same way that you made an account inactive in the chart of accounts. If you right-click on any vendor, you could click Make Vendor Inactive, and it gives the appearance of being gone forever. However, you can always see all the inactive vendors by coming up to this pull-down menu choice. Right now, we're only showing active vendors, but we can change this to show all vendors, and you notice there's an X next to Rex Repair. That's because Rex has been indicated as inactive. If we right-click, we can, we make vendor inactive shows the X, make vendor active removes the X. So if we now change back to active vendors, Rex Repair is now back on our active vendor list. Please note, you can only delete a vendor whom you never included in a transaction. If you did include the vendor in a transaction, then you can edit and make the vendor inactive the same way you can edit an account or make an account inactive. The Vendor Center has many tools for managing your relationship with vendors. They're all common sense, and you can figure them out just by exploring them. The most important thing to know about the Vendor Center is that when you click on a vendor, you will see all of the transactions for that vendor listed here. And if you choose a different vendor from the left panel, you will see a different set of transactions for that vendor.